Hello, how is your week going so far? I want to talk about my experience last week and the learnings that I had from a roundtable discussion that I attended, where we were discussing about burnout from and the diversity on the table was like we had several leaders who have been in the industry for several years and people like myself who are pivoting into leadership roles, and we also had some people who were mindfulness coach and who had done coaching, and it was great. It was a very great discussion. I took a lot of notes. So today, what I'm going to share in the video is not purely and truly my thought process and understanding, but it's actually all the learnings that I got from that discussion that I'm sharing here in the video. So the first point when we started talking about burnout, because it is a vulnerable topic to talk about, it is vulnerable to admit that you are feeling burnout, that you're feeling this fatigue. And the discussion started from trying to understand what burnout really is. It is a kind of disconnection from self, right? So you're feeling disconnected from yourself, and that's when you're feeling the weight of a burnout weighing on you before it reaches to a point where you do break. And we then talked about, like, what you should be really asking yourself, like in situations like this, in situations where you start feeling this kind of disconnect from yourself. What really happens is that you lose maybe the sense of what brings you joy. Whatever brings you joy, you're feeling disconnected from that, and that's why you're feeling this sense of disconnection from yourself. Of course, there can be much deeper reasons, so it's individual to each person. But this was us trying to understand from a perspective of what really happens and what the journey is like. So what would you do, like, in if you're starting to feel that disconnection, if you're starting to feel that what brings you joy is actually not bringing you joy? Maybe a good thing to do would be to look and think deeper. So to ask yourself questions like, what is truly impacting me? And what is truly causing the burnout? What is the deeper reason for it? Could it be that I'm feeling lack of confidence, which I personally actually have felt tremendously over the course of last year? 2023 has been a monumental year for me in terms of my growth, and I went through extreme imposter syndrome, and I went through extreme lack of confidence as I was managing and headwinds in business and in personal life. um, could it be that I am losing focus? I don't have the focus. Could it be that there's a combination of both confidence and focus going hand in hand? Is that leading to burnout? Could it be that there's a lack of alignment? So, do I have a lack of alignment in what I see as my purpose, what I really want to do in my job, in my roles as a professional, as a person, as a mother, as a partner? Is it that I'm feeling this sense of lack of alignment in the purpose and what I'm really doing every day? um it and a very unpopular opinion, and or rather thought to think into, is there some kind of obsession that's taken over me? So we talked about, like, if once you get fully focused and obsessed over one thing, it can take you away from other things in your life, but your life is actually happening in parallel in all areas of your ecosystem, just tying it back to the ecosystem that I was discussing in my previous videos. So are you feeling this kind of sense of obsession on one area, focus area of your life, and is it taking you away from other areas, and that's why you're feeling the burnout of excessive control or excessive lack of control in certain areas? Is it that you're going through a vulnerable phase? Are you feeling vulnerability? Is the vulnerability impacting you? Is that cause of vulnerability being certain reasons, emotional, personal, professional? Is it the vulnerability that's leading you to burnout? What is really happening? And a very good point that was brought on that table, which I really appreciate, is to ask yourself the question, what is enough? Because often we forget to ask ourselves the question, what is enough? We are always looking for the next thing and the next best thing and the next better thing that we can do. But we tend to forget what is really enough for me. I am personally a culprit of this. I'm a culprit of somebody, somebody who would have like who would have an ambition and I would achieve it, and instead of like staying there and actually like enjoying that growth, I would want to do the next thing. So what is really enough, like on an everyday basis, especially if you're feeling close to a burnout. We also briefly touched upon impact and purpose. So we talked about impact and purpose. We talked about how bringing that alignment to your to the purpose, and also focusing more on your impact, how that can help you make more streamlined choices, more choices that would actually bring you the joy that we were talking about, choices that will connect you with yourself. And another thing we talked about was meaningful relationships. I think that's very important, whether it's your workplace, whether it's your personal life, whether it's friendships. Like, if you have meaningful relationships, that gives you a sense of belonging. And belonging is very important. Burnout can feel very isolated. Burnout can feel very solo, that you don't have anybody to rely on, that you don't have a safe space that you can speak, where you can open up and talk about your burnout. So I think having meaningful relationships can bring in a lot of not only joy but different perspective, and it can also help you look at your life in a more fuller way. We also actually had a very great discussion about the impact of leadership, and how leaders can take the lead to create more psychologically safe spaces where people can bring their whole self to work, to their home. It's like the onus on leadership to build a culture which allows people to feel safe to bring their whole self, and to be able to talk about their vulnerability, to be able to talk about their confidence, about their focus, about any other factor that would be impacting them, that can lead to burnout, so that you can avoid burnout. But not only avoid burnout, but actually how do you remove the these factors, or how do you slowly convert these factors that can lead to burnout into a space where actually people feel comfortable to grow at their own pace. And another thing that we really touched upon briefly, which I personally shared and feel very passionate about, is that it's not only leadership who has an impact on us, right? I've spoken about this in my previous video about the impact of my manager on me and my impact on my manager. So it's not only leadership that has an impact on us, it's also you as an individual contributor who has an impact on leadership. So we have to understand that there are certain things that leadership will have to exercise as a part of leading teams, which may or may not sit well, or which may or may not come across as pleasant news for us. But there's a lot that they are also carrying on their shoulder. So it would be great to have a relationship between leadership and between individual contributors, between teams, where you have the empathy for them as well. So we have this empathy towards leadership, because there can be leadership fatigue as well. It's not only individual contributors or who might feel this pressure. It's also a lot in leadership especially. And it is to be taken into consideration, and it is to be looked at from the lens of how can the team members support their leadership, and how can leadership support their team members, so that the space is psychologically safe, so that nobody goes through a burnout, not even the leaders, and so that everybody feels everybody feels invigorated to bring their best self to work, to bring their best self to their homes, to their families, to their relationships. So it's I've it was actually a very vulnerable roundtable to be at, to confess that on record. It was a very vulnerable roundtable where I felt that I understood very little, and I learned a lot from everything that everybody was sharing at that table, especially people who were in leadership. And as an IC who is perhaps proactively and consciously working towards honing into her leadership style and her leadership skills, I am learning that these conversations really help us understand the aspect of leadership which we may not understand until we are in that shoes. So I truly, genuinely, and wholeheartedly appreciate everyone that was there at that table. They really helped me understand a lot of things that I might not even have the vision for. I hope this video encompasses everything that we discussed and shares it in a bright light. And I hope you, if you're listening, you can learn something from it. It is helpful, and keep watching. I'll keep posting. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Bye bye.